Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. I want to say Shalom to our knockout out there, pursuing this truth diligently. I'm at you once again with another lesson. This one's titled Stop Arguing with Cops, Jake. Now, I got to be a little bit quieter 'cause it's a little late. Um, you know, so I'm out here in that open area where my computer is. I decided to just wait until I got home. It's a little bit later. I had to come home and get some food cooked and all that stuff. So slack you for that. But yeah, man. So I had this lesson cooking since earlier today, and I've been seeing this video going around. A lot of you are probably already familiar with it, but I've been seeing it go around for a little bit, and I wasn't really gonna do anything on it, but it's been blowing up more and more and more. I've been seeing it more on Reddit. So I said, you know what, let's just go ahead and make a little video about it, touch on it, because Jake, needs to stop arguing with cops. All right, Jake, of course, if you're tuning in, Jake is, of course, referring to, the Israelites who are truly, all right, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, they've hid our identity from us, and they've hid their identity. All right, they're, being the so-called white man, and their identity being the Edomites. All right, our enemy. All right, the one who is, basically vowed to kill us, and ultimately, like, our older brother at the end of the day. But you know, um, Jake keeps arguing with cops, and a lot of these cops are Edomites. All right, so-called white people, and what do you think they're gonna do? All right, this is your enemy at the end of the day. This is your enemy, and you think they're gonna be nice to you? They're gonna treat you fairly. They're gonna listen to what you have to say. They're gonna come up and say, "Oh shit, you know what? You're completely right. We were completely unjust. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, young man." And they're gonna walk off. No, man, they don't care. A lot of them are already walking up with racial malice. All right, they already have hate in their eyes, and they already want to do something to you, and they're really hoping that you do something so they can legally do something to you without losing their job or getting a fine or catching a case, right? So you got to realize that, Jake. All right, you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Americans. All right, our people aren't gonna really be on good conditions with the cops. Okay, because most cops are so-called white people. All right, and they're not coming up. Most of the time, anybody that's been in contact with cops, a lot of the time it's on some bullshit. All right, they're pulling some bullshit. It's because really they saw you and you look suspicious, which can mean anything. All right, you sat at a red light too long, or you took 3 seconds after the red light went. You took a couple too many seconds to go, or you were sitting in a parking lot. And meanwhile, you just pulled over to eat your burger. All right, but you were sitting in the parking lot too long, or you did a weird turn, or most of the time it's not even stuff that's really illegal. All right, and they'll mess with you. But Jake be doing some illegal shit too, and then wonder why the cops are getting him. All right. So you just got to look, man. Don't argue with cops. Look, I don't like cops either. All right, I don't like cops at all. All right, they're basically just Roman centurions. That's all they are, and all they are is they're violent criminals with a badge. That's really all they are. All right, they're there and they want to hurt, they want to harm, and if they can find a way to take you to jail and lock you up and make themselves look better, they will do it. Okay, and I've been not like cops for a while, and a lot of people say, "Oh, if you don't like cops, that's because you must be doing something." No, that's the problem. The people that are doing something, half the time, they're not the ones that the cops are messing with. The ones they're messing with are the people that are minding their business and aren't doing anything, but they're messing with them because they know they're not going to be a threat. They know it's not going to be an issue. It's going to be a simple pull over, issue a ticket, or do whatever, and then be gone. If it was someone violent, half the time they don't even mess with them because they're scared of them. Okay, so cops are always messing with the people that really haven't even done much. Okay, anything like easy pickings is what they're looking for, right? It's ridiculous, man. And I've seen it. I've seen even with my dad when I was young how they act. My dad went. I think it was like 5 miles over a speed limit. They tried to mess with him for that. And then another time was my dad ran a yellow light a little bit too long after it had been yellow. It wasn't even red. And when he went through, he was driving. It was yellow still, but right after he crossed I guess the intersection line, it turned red, and the cop, flipped the lights, whoop, and pulled him over. My dad had to do a defensive driving course, a bunch of other stuff, driving class. And it was ridiculous. We're getting a hefty fine. I think he ended up getting a little bit of a fine anyway. But that type of shit, just looking for, to fill a quota. All right, they're not looking for the killers or anything like that. They're looking for just easy people they can just give a ticket, fill their quota, and go home because they don't want to mess with any violent criminals. Okay, so don't argue with these people because they already know how the interaction is going to go by the time you come. Look, they just want to come. They want to have you stroke their ego, and like when I first moved here, I got messed with a cop. When I mean here is in Vegas. All right, when I first moved here, I got messed with by a cop, and that was like 7 or 8 years ago. And it was like 2 a.m. I just got off my shift. I was working at a Subway at the time. I got off my shift. I was walking home, and it was dead. All right, it was in Summerlin. All right, it was dead, and there was nothing there. All right, it was 2 a.m. Barely any cars. I mean, every once in a while, it's Vegas. So you used to have some people that go by, but it was slow. It was 2 in the morning. It's not downtown in Vegas. It's way out in the suburbs, and there was nothing going on. So there was this light I usually cross at, but I guess it was taking too long or something. I said, "Ain't nobody coming." So, and I didn't see nobody around. I looked around, looked both ways, and walked. And then, all of a sudden, the whoop, 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 and all of a sudden, a cop came out of nowhere. I looked around, there was nobody, and he said, "Hey, Paul, come back over, get over the side of the road." I think he came on his intercom, and I said, "What's up?" And he said, um, "You just jaywalked." And I said, "Jaywalking? What do you mean?" I'm like, I thought that was like, I thought they don't even enforce that. I thought that was just some stuff. I thought that was like not really enforced. He's like, "No, we enforce it." And I said, "Oh well, I just moved from Arizona, and I had an Arizona ID, all right, because that's the one I had." And I said, "I just moved from Arizona, and they don't enforce it in Arizona, and they don't. I mean, I never got messed with by, I mean, I've been messed with by cops in Arizona, but I never for jaywalking. They don't pay attention to that shit. They don't care. Make sure you're safe, and then get across the road. They're never gonna mess with you for that." But this guy, I think he just had a whatever it was, and he's like, "It's real dangerous." And I just started stroking his ego. I was like, "Yeah, I get it, man. You're out here, you're trying to protect us. I get it. You don't want to, end up cleaning me off the road." And he was like, "Exactly. Vegas is really dangerous with traffic. I just want to make sure you're safe. I don't want you." Stroke his ego a little bit, and then he went on his way. Didn't even give me a ticket. He said, "Just don't do that again." I said, "Okay, my bad, sorry," and moved it on. All right, I didn't argue with him and say, "Hey, motherfucker, blah blah blah." I just said, "Oh, was that really an issue here? I thought it was fine. I thought that wasn't even like a real law." He's like, "No, it's a real law." I'm like, "Oh shit, okay, my bad. I didn't know," and moved it on. Meanwhile, Jacob was like, "What the fuck? I'm just trying to fucking cross the street, motherfucker. What the fuck you put?" And then it makes it into a big issue. And now he's probably gonna, at the very least, you're probably gonna get a ticket, right? So stop arguing with cops, Jake. All right, but that's my little intro. That's my little opening. I'm gonna go ahead and play you a couple things of the video, um, and then we're gonna get, of course, the first scripture of this. But for those of you that haven't seen it, um, I guess this is in most of the video. So here you go. Go ahead and watch this.
Over, he walked up, opened my door because my window don't work, right? Okay. And then I said, "So what I did wrong?" Yeah. He said, "Well, for one."
So he was arguing with cops. He said, "Get out, go out, get out, get out," and he wasn't doing it. He said, "What for? What for? What?" He wasn't really being like, "What for? What?" But he was like, "For what? I didn't. What? I haven't done anything, officer." He was being really. He was being kind of polite about it, but you still don't need to fucking argue with the cops, man. Stop arguing with the cops.
Your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like, okay. There's multiple people headlights off, first of all, and then there's no rain.
So yeah, they got him for driving in the rain with no headlights on. There was no rain. Was it a bullshit charge? Absolutely, absolutely. But if you would have just agreed, maybe you could have got out of it easier. I don't know. It was a bullshit charge. It was all bullshit. They're coming up on some bullshit anyway. But
it doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on. It's not night. Why are you required to have headlights on?
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor?
Huh?
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Well, let's go look it up. Let's go ask. In Jacksonville, what is the headlight law during the day? Wipers on, headlights on. If you're using your windshield wipers due to rain, smoke, or fog, you must have your headlights on, even during the day. If you can't see under that, so you can see in the video, it's not raining. Okay, you can go back.
Can you pull that law up?
Does not look like it's raining to me at all. It doesn't look like it's even that foggy. So, what if it's just overcast, no rain? If it's just overcast with no rain, Florida law does not require headlights during the day unless the conditions reduce visibility less than 1,000 feet. So, it was bullshit. It was bullshit. It was a bullshit law. Okay? It's Esau at the end of the day. They don't care. So, you can hear.
Can you pull that law up?
What?
Headlights off, first of all. And then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. It does matter. Unless the visibility is less than 1,000 feet. It does matter.
You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor?
And remember, you're always allowed to ask for a supervisor. You shouldn't, because again, you shouldn't be arguing with cops, but that is legally allowed.
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle!
Punched him right in the face. Again, this is all completely unjustified. All right, but I mean, it's not unjustified by how about Shemiao Shai, because obviously the Lord wanted this to happen to this guy. He's got dreadlocks. He wasn't doing what he's supposed to be doing. Again, Jake, you know, you're going against the scriptures. You're not listening to the scriptures. Yeah, these are your enemies at the end of the day. Okay, this is the devil you're dealing with. How do you expect the devil to act? Like a good person? No, the devil's gonna act like a devil. Don't be surprised when he acts like a devil, man. So you see him just smashed open, and then he didn't even need to punch him in the face. For what? Why did he punch him in the face? For what?
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle!
Exit the vehicle now. Gave him 1 second. All right, let's see.
Vehicle.
Let's see. Let's count. Let's go and see. Let's go and see how long it took.
Call your supervisor.
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle!
So he gave him not even basically a second. All right. 1.25 seconds to from the get out of the vehicle to the punching him in the face.
Vehicle now! Exit the vehicle!
For let's see if I could even change. Let's see if I can even go up here and get my notifications by that point, right? And I'm gonna move fast.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle!
I barely even got to be able to open my notifications with that, let alone unbuckle myself, which he's buckled in, unbuckle myself, and open the door. Gave him 1 second to comply. 1 second.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle! Show me your hands.
Here.
I'm here. What is your reason, sir? What is your reason?
Step out now.
All right.
Watch.
No, don't.
Now they're just beating the shit out of him.
Stop fighting! Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
Stop fighting, stop fighting. He said, I'm not.
What's wrong with you?
I was putting my hands behind my back.
Ain't no talking now, man. Ain't no talking.
Fucking stupid shit, bro. I was doing it, bro. What's going on, man?
You're under arrest. That's what's going on.
No, bro.
Yes, bro.
You
Yes.
have a lawful reason,
Big
bro.
Knife Center in here too.
You gonna throw me going like that, bro?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it off of you, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm just
The way he said, bro, you could hear that he really wanted to say ninja.
regular conversation with y'all, bro.
That's not how it works.
Too late. It ain't gonna too late.
When they asked you to step out of the vehicle, you should have done that shit.
Sir, your partner didn't even ask.
Marijuana in his right pocket.
Yes, it is.
So why close the door if you see him pull up?
Because, man, what you mean? He talking about arresting me and stuff, bro. I didn't do nothing.
It's called resisting, idiot.
I didn't do nothing wrong, sir.
That's not resisting. Resisting is when you're, he said when he pulled up, he was acting like he was going to take me to jail, and threatening him. That is not resisting. All right, resisting is resisting arrest. It's not resisting anything else. Okay, so again, it doesn't really make sense to know your rights because you don't have no rights. Okay, at the end of the day, what this guy did, none of it was technically legally unlawful. Okay, it was not unlawful. Really, he should have just shut the fuck up. I mean, I'm not real. I mean, if you were going to be in the mindset of not complying, really, you should just not speak at all. All right. So you don't have to roll down your windows legally. You have to show identification technically, legally, in some circumstances. Most you do, and you can just put your ID straight to your window. You don't have to speak to them at all. If they say anything, most depending on the situation. If they said that you're speeding, there's just different situations. But again, Jake, you don't need to be doing all that. All right. But legally, technically, you can do all that. But legally doesn't mean you should be doing it, right? So we can read some of the comments here. Let me get the scripture first. This is Matthew 5:25. It says, "Agree with thine adversary quickly, whiles thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison." So again, you're supposed to, comply quickly. Comply quickly is basically what it's saying, because they're your adversary. What is an adversary? All right, adversary. Let's look it up.
Adversary.
All right, a rival, an enemy, a foe. All right, one's opponent in a contest, a conflict, or a dispute. They're your enemy. Okay, so how do you think the enemy's going to treat you? Not like a friend. Okay, so it says, "We've investigated ourselves and we found that we've done nothing wrong." Yeah, I actually saw that. You see right here, it said that he was verbally combative and reached for a knife. Nowhere in that video do you see him reach for a knife. He had his hands up. It says it's not difficult to pick out the real criminals here. It says getting punched for a light ticket, there's some hate here. I agree. It says worse than hate, it's unbridled psychopathy. Word. It says sounds about white. I'm going to go ahead and like that. None of your racism justifies him getting punched like that. Rover setup. I guess that guy got banned. It says fatigue. And here's what you get with your fatigue. You get reported. You get to be right here under hateful or abusive content. And then that's what we get to do. I do that all the time to people, and a lot of time I get a message back that they were banned. Fuck these crackers, man. I ain't dealing with it. We ain't dealing with it. All right, y'all want to be stupid and you want to put some dumbass shit on a comment board like that? Enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your ban. You're gonna have to your dumbass gonna have to create another account now. It says they didn't realize he was recording into the end. Cowards. Was that true? Let me see.
Can you back me up to the car so I can meet up? Shut up.
They turned the thing off, and I'm really surprised that they didn't try to delete the video. But what else do we got? Top of the glass is a coward. Others are complicit for not stopping him. Absolutely. Stop resisting. You almost can't make it up anymore. It says it needs to be an instant felony for police to instigate violence on a calm, unarmed man. They won't do it. They won't do it. Let's see. Here it is. 14% of the wizards cast 60% of the spells. What they're talking about is 14% of black. 14% of the population is black, and they can commit 60% of the crime. So you get to get reported. Okay. They probably won't do anything because you actually got smart with how you word it. But you mean he was actively resisting? Open your eyes. Again, resisting is he was resisting in speech, but he wasn't resisting. When they say stop resisting, that means resisting arrest or resisting. Yeah, they don't mean stop resisting conversation. It doesn't mean that. It's never meant that. Okay, that's like saying if they say give me all your money and you don't do it, and they say stop resisting. Well, you did resist. Yeah, well, that's technically legally allowed. Let's see. Yeah, we already read that. It says none of them will be held responsible for their actions, and it will all be swept under the rug. Absolutely. All that violence over a headlight. True. So that shit was disgusting to watch. Exactly. Why resist arrest? He didn't resist arrest. He didn't resist arrest. What are you fucking talking about? He resisted, certain things, but he didn't resist arrest. All right. Man, even the black ain't chill. Yeah, that's Officer Coon. See. This is just pure evil. Man's about to make bank. There's a reason the NWA didn't make a song about the fire department. He purposely broke the window right as his eyes. That's a sadistic criminal gang member. It's true. True. And nothing will happen to them. Nothing will happen to them, right? Because, again, this is Esau society. So a lot of the time they get off unless it really blows up. And this looks like it could blow up to be something big. So they might end up actually charging those cops. Because if it gets to be way big, then usually they can't ignore it.
And now to that viral video we've been talking about throughout the morning here on Good Morning Jacksonville, stemming from a traffic stop in Duval. We have just received a copy of the official police report back from February of this year. Our crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson will break that down momentarily, but first.
It said he was charged with not wearing a seatbelt too, but the video clearly shows the officer that breaks the window take his seatbelt off of him. It's true. There's another thing, another lie. All right, here, let's get a scripture right here. This is Job 13:4. It says, "But ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value." This is referring to the Edomites, of course. So they're forgers of lies, and they're physicians of no value. And a physician is a doctor, which means they're not even good healers. Okay, they're not good healers, and they're forgers of lies. So all they do is lie. All right, and that's what they do. And they say, "Oh, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt." You can clearly see he was wearing a seatbelt.
First, we want to bring you back up to speed on how this all started as far as.
Yep, says they could have deleted this victim at this stop, and this is why these citizens don't have trust for the police department anymore. Let's see. Headlights off at 4 p.m. Yeah, right, and it's summer, and the sun don't go down until damn near 7:30. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. It says waiting 5 months until the video went viral before even beginning an investigation. This makes it seem like a lie to claim the JSO holds their officers to a higher standard. Cops don't become psychopaths. Psychopaths become cops. I agree. Cops lie like they always do. Cops are sick. I agree. Reach for a knife. He got punched in the face sitting there and then got punched in the face again afterward. The officer needs his badge taken and thrown in jail. He does not have the right temper for the job. Absolutely. Just dumb. It says the police body camera shows another officer punching him 5 to 7 times when he was on the ground. Yeah, man. Fuck these cops, man. They ain't shit. All right, because that's all they do. They just really, because again, it's Edomites. All right, it's so-called white people, and they just can't wait to get a hold on Jake. So when they pull Jake over, really they're looking for a way to hurt you. All right, and sometimes they'll just hurt you anyway. All right, just to and they'll take the not thinking that they're gonna go to jail for it, and they will go to jail. But sometimes they'll usually try to. So what are you doing, huh? Where you coming from? They try to do something to get you pissed, and when they get you pissed, hey, you can calm down when you speak to me, boy. And they'll say, "What the fuck did you just say?" Oh, what? You getting aggressive? Get out of the fucking car! Get out of the fucking car! And then they'll shoot you dead. All right? They're trying to antagonize to get you heated so they can do something to you.
As we know, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office announced Sunday that they have launched an internal investigation after a video showed an officer shattered a car window and hit the driver in the head multiple times. The video begins with the driver explaining to a Jacksonville Sheriff's officer who you cannot see.
When the stop was.
If he was white, that would have never happened. Just saying. If he was white, that would have never happened.
Shattered a car window and hit the driver in the head multiple times. The video begins with the driver explaining to a Jacksonville Sheriff's officer who you cannot see on camera that he was pulled over for not having his headlights on. The driver argued the lights did not need to be on because it wasn't raining. When he asks for a supervisor, things quickly escalate. Take a look.
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle. Show me your hands.
Here.
Right here, this is from him. All right, it says February 19th, I was pulled over at 4 p.m. for my headlights being off and no rain, smoke, or fog. In fact, I could see a part of the blue sky. I simply asked for a supervisor and things escalated quickly. As you can see, a chipped tooth and 9+ stitches in my lips. My tooth went through my lip, were the results from me slamming me on the ground for no reason while I was trying to put my hands behind my back. I also suffered a concussion. So yeah, they busted this guy's tooth through his lip. Fuck. because I also suffer from concussion and short-term memory loss. This was very hard to do. I'm not mentally healed from this, but I had to get the word out eventually. And if I push you away or change more, this is likely why I just don't fuck with you. So this is most likely why, or I just don't fuck with you anyways. Talk to you later. Please tag and share.
I'm here. What is your reason, sir? What is your reason?
Step out now.
All right. No.
We mentioned the driver was hit multiple times. You see once they're in the vehicle and again when he's taken out of the vehicle. The driver is identified as a 22-year-old. His name is William McNeil Jr. He's now represented by civil rights attorneys Ben Crump and Harry Daniels.
Damn.
Sheriff T.K. Waters says the
so
department is committed
More taxpayer money going to waste.
to a full review of the incident and holding officers to the highest standards. We want to bring in now Jasmine Rose. She's standing by with our.
And these dumbass crackers that always vote Republican. It's funny because they don't want universal health care. All right, they don't want to vote for universal health care. But I mean, Republicans got certain things right, Democrats got certain things right, but they're both dumbasses at the end of the day. But it's funny because these racist ass Republicans, they don't want to vote for universal health care because it'll take away, tax money. But they're okay with having the police beat up on black people like this because, they're racist, but they don't realize that all these charges they didn't be found out to being unjust also comes out of their tax money. So they'll waste it on beating black people, but they won't give people health care. Shows you where these devils' minds are really at.
Our crime and safety expert, Ken Jefferson, with what we know so far about this incident.
Yes, and we actually just received this police report, and there's a lot of information that we're learning new this morning. So make sure you just stick with us as we're combing through all of this information. So again, we have Ken Jefferson joining us here with us this morning. He's our crime and safety expert. And Ken, what have you noticed inside of this police report that stood out to you the most? It was that knife.
Yeah, a couple of things. The officer's reasoning for probable cause to stop him said that it was inclement weather and he was driving without headlights on. So as we look at the video, it appears to be sunny. It's not raining.
Right.
There's not a
It wouldn't look so bright in the background. You could tell by seeing how clear this guy's face is that it doesn't seem to be overcast. It'd be pretty dark. It seems to be pretty sunny out.
appear to be foggy or anything at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is when the stop was. Also, he said that he noticed the driver drive without headlights and no seatbelt on. Unless he put the seatbelt on after the stop, it clearly shows that he had a seatbelt on, that they had to take it off of him to extract him out of the vehicle.
Fucking liars.
So those are questions that's going to have to be answered by the officer themselves. When the officer, when we look at the body cam and the officer is approaching the vehicle, does he have a seatbelt on? You know, so, but he did not articulate in the report that he placed the seatbelt on after the stop. He just said he saw him driving without the seatbelt on. That stood out to me. And then he also said that there was a large knife that he was reaching for that was on the floorboard under the driver's seat. According to what I see in this video, I don't see any kind of reach going on at all. Maybe I missed it, or maybe it wasn't there. We'll find out.
See if they go past his.
Also, in this police report, it states.
I don't see him reach at all. I see him have his hands up and then he gets yanked out. So again, another fucking lie. These devils got to go, man. How about Shmeow Shai's got to come back and get rid of these devils because all they do is lie. All right, they lie.
The injuries, that there were no injuries in this report, and we clearly see that.
Oh, another lie. They're saying there was no injuries, and now we're seeing that there are injuries. Oh wow, they're gonna lie and say that the interior of his car was purple next. That's what they're gonna say.
His mouth was bloody due to a chipped tooth too as well. So these are some of the things that stand out. What happens when an officer writes down something that doesn't actually occur during a traffic stop?
They should get a felony for what do they call it? False testimony or false reporting. They should get a felony. It should just be a felony. If it's found out that they did it, it was wrong, and it's knowingly wrong, in video and all that stuff, felony. Give them a felony.
Or anything that happens that doesn't seem
ban
to
them from ever being a cop again.
appear to be
Make
true.
those motherfuckers work at Walmart as
Well,
a
they're
bag boy.
Held accountable for the report because the report is a sworn affidavit, basically. And what he articulates in that report is an official police report, sworn statement by that particular officer. The fact that they had to call GFRD to provide medical assistance shows that there was some type of injuries somewhere, either injuries to the officer or the person involved in this incident. So that contradicts what's actually in the report.
And also, we do want to backtrack for the moments in this video when he asked for that supervisor. Is it okay to ask for a supervisor? Does it make the traffic stop more safe?
Well, it's always okay to ask for a supervisor. But what the officer is saying is the individual was not complying with him. He said, you get out of the car, we'll do all this, that, and the other, as opposed to saying, I'll call a supervisor for you to get him over here. That may have eased the individual's mind and calmed him down a little bit. But the key thing is, if you're on a traffic stop, you're asked to get out of the car, just comply. You're not going to win an argument if you disagree with the stop on the street. You're not going to win that. You have to take that to court. And
This guy is true, though. He's true. That's not ex-cop. That's just, you know, says he's a retired JSO, and those are his people in the video doing a man like that. And yeah, but I mean, he said, yeah, he didn't see any of the things that the cop said. He said, I'm not seeing any of these things, but it's true, Jake. You got to comply, even if you don't want to. I get it. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, but it sucks. Yes, we get it. It's unjust. You're being discriminated. You're being unfairly targeted against. All right, and you're gonna have to deal with some shit that you didn't really even do. All right, but like even I think it was Elder Monatazatba out of GMS South Carolina. He said, look, even if you weren't speeding, it's just better off to just pay the fucking $50 speeding ticket, man. All right, because if not, you're not gonna comply. Then you're gonna get resisting arrest, and you get assault against an officer when you even didn't do it. Now you're gonna get this and that, reaching for a weapon. You're gonna get all these other things. They're gonna throw the book at you because you made them look dumb, and they're not gonna like it. Right? So it's better. Yeah, sometimes it is just better to just comply, or else they're just gonna fuck you up, man. You know. So beat up by black people getting beat up by law enforcement. So, but Jake, you know this. Right?
I'm not trying to justify it.
You know they don't like you. So it'd probably just be, yep, my bad. All right, cool. Yep, let me do whatever I need to do to get out of this situation alive, hopefully. Right?
Anything at this particular point from anybody, but you have to comply.
And again, body camera footage will also show what happened at the beginning of this traffic stop.
We need to see how this thing evolved. We're seeing a portion of the video, but we need to see how this evolved. According to the police report, he was verbally combated from the initial stop all the way through the entire incident. You see he's not in the video. You see he's not getting out of the car, so they have to force him. And they have a lawful right to extract him out of the car if he's not getting out of the car and complying with them.
All right, crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson, again, thank you so much. And we'll have more questions as we comb through this. A lot happening here this morning. Make sure you stick with First Coast News.
So there you go. All right. So you know how these people are going to be, Jake. So you got to be smart about it. All right. Let's get Ephesians 5:15 through 16. All right. So again, we'll get Matthew 5 and real quick, let's get Matthew 5:25 again. It says, agree with thine adversary quickly whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Now, what I want to do with all these scriptures, I want to go and get Bible Gateway. I want to get these in a couple different things. I want to get them in Good News Translation primarily, and the NLT primarily. But Matthew 5:25 here says, if someone brings a lawsuit against you and takes you to court, settle the dispute while there is time before you get to court. Once you are there, you will be turned over to the judge, who will hand you over to the police, and you will be put in jail. Kind of watered it down. But let's get the NLT. It says, when you are on the way to court with your adversary, settle your differences quickly. Otherwise, your accuser may hand you over to the judge, who will hand you over to an officer, and you will be thrown in prison. Or, the way that our society now works kind of doesn't really work like that. First, you're going to be, the officer is going to deal with you. Then you're going to be delivered unto a judge, all right? And then that judge is going to decide if they want to throw you in prison or not. So really, you better, with the way things work here, you should settle your differences with the police quickly, okay? Or else then you're going to have a court date. And ain't nobody want to have a court date. All right, let's get the NLV. It says, agree with the one who is against you while you are talking together, or he might take you to court. The court will hand you over to the police. You will be put in prison. Do you want that, Jake? Sounds like you do. All right. This is, and we know it sucks. Ain't nobody say, well, you just saying to comply with the crap. Yes, because unfortunately, yes, they will shoot you if not. and ain't no stupid getting pulled over worth getting shot over. Okay, so that's something you need to realize, Jake. Certain shit, yeah, it sucks. Ain't nobody want to play a fine for some shit that they didn't do, but it's better than fucking getting shot up 3 times. And then you got to pay fucking medical bills because you got shot 3 times, and if you even live, right? So Ephesians 5:15-16 says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil." We're in evil days, man. These Edomites are looking for any chance, any opportunity, any excuse to be able to kill Jake. All right, any excuse to be able to kill a so-called black man, a so-called black woman, a so-called Mexican man or woman, or any of the so-called, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, any of them, they will just find a way. They just can't. They're foaming at the mouth to do it. Okay. So you got to walk circumspectly, all right, and not as a fool, all right, but as like you have some wisdom, okay. And what does circumspect mean? All right, we get this definition over here. It means wary and unwilling to take risks. Okay, that's exactly what it means. Wary and unwilling to take risks. Right here.
Circumspect.
Wary and unwilling to take risks. So cautious, wary, careful, on one's guard. So you got to be on your guard, man. You got to be alert. You got to be discreet and cautious. You don't want to antagonize the police. You got to be careful. That's not being careful. Okay, that's being unguarded. That's being uncautious. That's being chaotic. Okay, and the cops are just gonna shoot you. And this guy's really fortunate that he's even alive, because they could have just shot him. They could have just shot his ass up. He's reaching for a knife. Blam, blam, blam. They could have done that, but they didn't. So really, you should really be thankful, Jake. All right, we know it's a bullshit situation. And it sucks, all right, especially if you got your toothbrush through your lip. But hey, man, that's really at the end of the day a small price to pay, because it wasn't your life. So the NLV here says, Ephesians 5:15-16 says, "So be careful how you live as men who are wise and not foolish. Make the best use of your time. These are sinful days." The NLT says, "So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days." And then let's get the Good News translation. And it says, "So be careful how you live. Don't live like ignorant people, but like wise people. Make good use of every opportunity you have, because these are evil days." So you heard it. You heard it, right? But Jake don't like to listen. All right? Remember, this is your big bro that you're dealing with, Esau. And what did Esau say about you? What did Esau say about Jake? How did he feel about us? Let's see. Genesis 27:41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob." And he said he's going to kill him. Okay? He's going to kill him. And then, Rebecca had to basically tell Jacob, "Hey, man, you got to go." Well, not hey, man, but hey, son, you got to go, because your brother's going to try to kill you. All right? And, it's just, that's who this devil is. All right? They're the Edomite, and they want to kill you. And they've had that. They're the same people reincarnated back. All right? It's not like in biblical reincarnation is a concept. It does exist. All right? You can get some scriptures like "there's nothing new under the sun." All right, nothing new under the sun. KJV, type that in. It'll say nothing new under the sun. It also talks about no remembrance of former things. And are we not under the sun? We're under the sun. It says, would there be anything that says, "See, this is new"? So we're not new. Another scripture talks about 2 different scriptures. One scripture mentions the son shall not bear the iniquity of the father. We'll get it right here in the Bible Gateway. And it says, let's get us right here in the King James Version down here somewhere. It says, "The soul that sinneth, it shall die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him." But in another scripture, it says, visiting the iniquity of the fathers. So a lot of people would think this is a biblical contradiction, and it's not. Exodus 24:7 says, "Keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity," that's a sin, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the 3rd and 4th generation. So that would go against this scripture, right? Well, no, because these are talking about 2 things. If your dad smokes a cigarette, All right, you're not going to bear, and you tell him, Dad, you shouldn't be doing that because again, the blood are on your hands if you don't say nothing. But you said something, hey, Dad, you shouldn't be smoking that cigarette. He does it anyway. Then you're not going to bear his iniquity. All right, the Lord's not going to punish you because of what he's doing. All right, but this people will be like, well, that's what that's talking about. No, no, no. Okay, this is there. He's visiting the the iniquity of the fathers upon their children unto the third and fourth generation. Third and fourth generation, that's 75 to 100 years. All right, 3 generations is 75. Fourth generation is 100. So that's 75 to 100 years span there. All right, give or take. And that's how often you come back, depending on how fast your family gets down. All right, how fast they do the old. All right, they can be a little bit sooner, it can be a little bit later. All right, but that's how it works. All right, and you always come back in your life. If you're a man, you always come back as a man. If you're a woman, you always come back as a woman. All right, and that's just how it goes. Okay, there's a little bit more to it, but that it gets pretty deep. But if you're a prophet in the past, you're a prophet now. If you were following the Lord back then, you're following the Lord now. Okay, so if you're following the Lord now, you more likely walked with Yahushua back in the day. All right, Yahushua being, of course, the true biblical name of the one the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Okay, there's no J's in Hebrew. All right, and the J wasn't existent until the mid 1526, I think. So it couldn't have been, and the Lord was born way before that. Okay, so it couldn't have been a J. Matter of fact, in the original translation of the Bible, it was Jesus. Okay, so in the old King James version, 1611, there Jesus doesn't even appear once in the Bible. It was Jesus. Okay, Jesus. So but again, that's not accurate either because that's Greek. Okay, and the Lord was not Greek, is not Greek. Okay, he's Hebrew, was Hebrew, is Hebrew, and he has a Hebrew name, and that Hebrew name is Yahushai. And the Father has a Hebrew name as well, which is Yahweh. All right, which means he is. The Son's name means he is the deliverer. All right, he delivers. He is the deliverer. That's what the Son's name means. But so yeah, man, reincarnation. So these devils, all right, back in the day were the same. That's Edomite, just like we're through Jacob's line. Okay, they're Esau and Esau's line. Okay, now somewhere out there, Jake's still around. All right, Israel's still around. There's a lot of people that are still around, biblical figures that are still around, but just in a different body. All right, and you wouldn't be able to recognize them, but they're more than likely, not more than likely, they are either prophesying or they haven't woke up yet. All right, they're either prophets that you see now or they haven't woke up yet. But or they passed away and they're in the spiritual realm. They're sleeping and they're getting ready to come back again. All right, like King David. Okay, so there's a lot to it, but yeah, man. So these Edomites, the same people coming back. So and it's the same. These people say, "Oh, we didn't do nothing with slavery. We didn't do anything with slavery. Fuck you, you black motherfuckers." Or you're those same people coming back. All right, you're those same people that died in the 1800s. All right, having slaves, right? And now you're coming back. Okay, and after that, say if you died in 1892, all right. Let's get 2025 minus 1892. Come on now. All right. It's 133 years ago. Okay. So, really, that would be, 133 years ago. That's really, like, if you were born in, like, 2002, all right, come on. You minus 75 years. All right, and the last time you were on Earth was 1927, or anywhere from 1927 1902. 1902 to 1927 was the last time you were on Earth. All right. You were born in 1992. All right. Last time you were around was either 1892 to 1970. And if you were born in 1974, minus 100 from that, well, 1874. All right, and then you minus another 100 from that. All right, these are when you would have lived, roughly. All right, can be a few years gaps, but keep on going. Right. So that's how you do it, man. And it's it's not gonna be 100% accurate because you just don't know at the end of the day, depending on how fast you got down or didn't get down. But you know, these are same people coming back. So how do you think they're gonna act if they said they wanted to slay their brother? The same people coming back. So that's why they still want to slay us because they're the same people. They're the same people, and they kept their. You can get it. Right here. That's what the Lord said. All right. This is Ezekiel 35 and 5. It's talking about Mount Seir. Okay. And Mount Seir is where the Edomites dwelled. All right. It was in the land of Edom. Okay. Mount Seir. So Ezekiel 35 and 5, speaking about these people, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel. There it is again, talking about them always hating Israel. All right. And has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, this is what you get, Esau. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, that thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So, there you go. But yeah, man, perpetual hatred. What does perpetual mean? The Edomites, so-called white man, has had a perpetual hatred. What is that?
Perpetual.
That means never ending or changing, everlasting, permanent. They don't change. They don't get better. All right, they just keep on being wicked. Okay, so knowing that, you, Jake, got to be careful. Okay, for example, let's get. I'm not going to keep on getting the Good News Translation because most of them are pretty straightforward from here. But Ecclesiasticus, I might get this one though. Ecclesiasticus 28 and 12, it says, "If thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both of these come out of thy mouth." So if you already have a situation that's hot, and you know these guys are your enemy, you know they're the devil at the end of the day, and you know that they hate you, and they hate your bloodline, and they've hate you years and years coming back to regeneration. They've stayed hating you, and they have that burning hatred, and they just don't like you. All right, and why is it? Because Esau hated Jacob because of the birthright, right? So that's why they hate us. All right, really because of things that they can't control. Okay, because they say, "Oh, well, Jacob stole the birthright." Not really. Not really. He didn't steal the birthright, no, because you can go and look in that. We'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll get back on topic. But if you go and look, sell me this day thy birthright. Okay, Genesis 25 and 31. Let's see if Jacob stole it. Let's go see it right here, verse 28. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay, really, Isaac just loved Jacob because he liked the meat. He liked the food that he cooked. That was it. In 29, it says, and Jacob sawed pottage. He was making pottage. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. Came out from a long day of hunting, right? He was faint. He was tired. He was really on the verge of death, all right, because he was starving to death. It says, and Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage. Red pottage is also meaning that it wasn't cooked yet. It wasn't finished. It says, for I am faint. Showing you again of their nature. They like to eat raw meat. It said, for I am faint, therefore was his name called Edom. All right, red. Okay, Edom means red. It says, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And you might say, well, that wasn't right. He should have just helped his brother out. Sure, yeah, you're right. But at the end of the day, he should have never sold that birthright. He should have never sold that birthright. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And really what comes into play is how Esau went about it. He hated the birthright. He didn't give a shit about it. What did Esau say? It said, and Esau said, behold, I'm at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? It says, what was this shit even going to do for me? Look, I'm about to die. Just give me the fucking meat, Jake. All right? I don't need none of this shit. All right? Because that's what he said. I'm not saying the birthright shit. I'm just speaking as Esau would say. He said, I don't care about none of this shit. All right? Because that's what he thought the birthright was. Nothing but shit. Now, it's very important to know about the birthrights in Israel, all right, and what they entitled you to. So you can go and look up right here what in ancient Israel, what did a birthright entitle you to? I'm going to let that run. Then it says, and Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. Now what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. He sold his birthright unto Jacob. He sold his birthright unto Jacob. Jacob didn't steal it. It was a transaction. He sold it. He sold it. Okay? Now, mind you, Esau was never meant to have that birthright. All right? The Lord never wanted him to have that birthright. And you can prove this by getting 2 nations are in thy womb. Now, and this is when the Lord was speaking to Rebekah, right? And this shows you, I want to read up a little bit, because this shows you Jacob and Esau have always had a rivalry. We've always had a rivalry. It says Genesis 25 and 21. It says, and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. All right, they were fighting in the womb. Right? It said, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. They're different. They're not the same. Listen, and one people shall be stronger than the other people. And the stronger person is Jacob. And the elder shall serve the younger. 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 Remember, the elder shall serve the younger. Let's go on. Okay, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, just like the Lord said. And the first came out red. Oh, what's that? Well, I closed out of it, but hence was his name Esau. Feed me that red pottage. Red. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. White people are not white. They're red. They're red people. You can go and look at it. Okay? This guy is red. He's pink. He came out red. Okay? Now, mind you, they only meant his color. They only mentioned his color because everybody else was very dark brown, i.e., what you would consider black. Okay? So, and the first came out, and you say, no, he wasn't black. They weren't black. Well, all you need to know is about through the seed line of Judah, all right, which came, down through Jacob, okay, and Yahushai looked, okay, which is given to you in Revelation 1, okay, I believe it's Revelation 1 and 16. Trying to get better with my memory. Yep, 14. I overshot it. But this is talking about, the Son, all right, Yahushai. It says this is Revelation 1 and 13. It says, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with the garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Now, if you go into Daniel, it talks about his father, Ancient of Days, all right, with hair like unto the fine wool. It says with hair like unto the fine wool. You can get that. Daniel, fine wool. With that like unto the fine wool. Daniel 10 and 5, it says, and then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and I beheld a certain man clothed in linens, whose loins were girded with the fine gold of Uphaz. No, it's in Daniel 7. It's Daniel 7 and 9. We'll just get it like this. But Daniel 7 and 9. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. The Ancient of Days is the Father. all right, Yahweh, who you would ignorantly call God, all right, people in the world. His name is Yahweh, all right, means he exists. And he actually told Moses in the Bible, I tell them I am hath sent you, all right, I am in Hebrew is Yahweh. It says, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. Again, no mention of color, it just says it's like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. But going here, it says Revelation 1:14, and his head and his hairs were white like wool. So they try to say, no, they were just white. Well, that still doesn't add up with your image and depiction of Jesus Christ, because he doesn't have white hair, he has dirty blonde hair. So that was a lie. Again, it says as white as snow, and it also talks about the texture of his hair. And we've looked it up on ChatGPT. Who has woolly hair? And if it says anybody other than so-called, as they say, African American or African peoples, all right, then that's a lie. All right, it's a lie. All right, because only so-called black people have woolly hair. That's it. Nobody else. All right, white people don't have woolly hair. All right, so-called Mexicans don't have and so-called Mexicans are in fact, at least a good chunk of them are in fact Israelites. Okay, but it's not that type of hair. Okay, now at one point they probably had a similar hair, at least more coarser hair, but so-called black people. All right, it's the Southern Kingdom. Okay, the so-called black people. All right, whether it's Judah, Levi, or Benjamin. Okay, they're known. All right, that and of course you have the nation Ham. All right, Ham, which is the so-called Africans. Okay, so that's why people get confused, because the hair texture's the same, and then the skin color's not even. It's the skin color's not the same, but it's dark. It's melanated, so that's why they confuse our people. But really, a lot of people were darker. All right, and the only ones that stayed dark is really just Jake, of course, and then Ham, and then some of the Arabs stay a little dark, but they've even got watered down with how dark because ancient Arabs were very, very dark, almost black skinned. All right, as they would say. All right, not that there's no such thing as black skin, but dark skin. All right, or dark skinned people really. And some of the Arabs still are, but very, very few. Because a lot of them have been watered down. All right, with colonization. And but they try to say, oh no, that's dealing with the color of his hair. Well, still, Jesus doesn't represent that, so that must be a false depiction. And then it says, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. And you give him blue eyes. So really, he should have white, woolly hair, okay? And his eyes should be orangish red. All right, but here's the big one. Here's the big one that you hate. Revelation 1:15. In case, the depiction of his hair being woolly wasn't enough, and his feet like into fine brass, as if they burn in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Now, a lot of people say, no, when metal burns in a furnace, it turns white. Well, first of all, it turns a glowing orange color. I used to work in a knife manufacturing company. If you look up heated metal, okay, it turns this color, okay? That is not the color of brass, okay? It's not this, and it's damn sure not red, okay? It gets, it gets whitish. It gets whitish, but it's not really white. All right, it just gets very bright to where your eyes perceive it as white, but it's really just a very bright. You can see this; it looks white. All right, but that's burned. Okay, it says burned, not burning. Okay, so as if they burned in a furnace. So, and his feet like in fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, not are currently burning. Because people say no, that he's white because his feet are like fine brass, as if they burn a furnace. That's white because he's pure. No, that's not what it's talking about. It doesn't say as if they're burning in a furnace. It says as if they burned. Burn is a past tense. All right, as if something already underwent the burning. And I don't know if you've ever heated up metal or anything like that, but it gets darker after it's been in an oven or a kiln or under high heat. Sometimes you'll use torches, these big torches that you'll light. Sometimes you'll use a furnace. Sometimes you'll use a smithy, like they have like a forge. That's what's called, a forge. So sometimes you'll use different things to heat that metal up. Sometimes you actually use friction and just keep on banging it over with a hammer. It'll actually heat up by itself. All right. If you actually keep on hitting something over and over and over again, it'll actually start to get hot. But yeah, man. So it doesn't say burning; it says burned. okay, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. That's dealing with Yahushua. Now, if you go and look up burnt brass, I'll show you my new favorite image. And this is just regular brass. This isn't even burnt brass. So you can see burnt brass, the color. It's very, very dark, okay? And this is the edges that didn't get burnt too much, but these are the edges that got burned more, and they're very dark, very melanated. All right, considered dark skin. All right, you can see hair like wool, feet like burnt brass, Okay, so and if you look at the old depictions, all right, you look at religious frescoes. For example, I got some just on deck. You can go and look into, and you can go look them up. You can do the information. You can go and look at the Pangea Maphriatosa depiction of Yahushua, or they say Jesus. All right, you can see it's from northern Greece. The tree of Jesse, Jesus. All right, it's a close up. Now, what color? What is it? Why does this look like an afro? Why does this look like an afro? That's interesting. Get some more. Let's get the catacombs of Domitia. All right, this is a depiction of Yahushua. That was just there. All right, right there it was. All right, but I actually have the image of that and his disciples. Okay, this is how they were depicted. Okay, there you go. Some of those hairs looking awful lot like afros, or at least very woolly. Okay, at least very woolly. Not woolly, but wavy. All right, at least very, very wavy. So, and another one I have, actually, as a matter of fact, before I close out, I wanted to show you the depiction of, Dura Europus, Moses and Aaron. This is Moses and Aaron. Now, tell me that don't look like a brother that you've seen. Tell me these two men right here don't look like some brothers that you've seen. Look at that. That is an afro. That is clearly a Negro nose. That is clearly how facial hair grows on so-called black men. It is so obvious. It is so obvious. Okay? That is an afro right there. If you can't believe that, then you're just stupid. Okay? You're just stupid. And then, yeah, man. All these stones that they found all over with Paleo Hebrew on them, right? And they found him in all the places. Usually they don't find him in all the places where Jake is, all right? Brazil and places like that, and, Israel, and of course they're going to find him in Israel, but they're finding even, the Native Americans spoke Hebrew. When you start adding it all up, it really doesn't look good for Esau, okay? So anyway, we got all that, okay? And, so it all goes back to this ancient birthright with why they didn't like us, and they still don't like us, and they'll continue to hate us. So I had something going here. What was it? So what did a birthright? He sold his birthright, all right? And you can get another scripture right here. It said, despised his birthright. All right. But anyway, I got onto that to show you that, a lot of people say, oh, well, Jacob stole his birthright, or he stole his blessing from Isaac, the father. And if you look at it, it does indeed seem like he stole the blessing, if you want to use that term, right? He came with subtlety and took it away. But you could say steal. If you want to say steal, I'll let you say steal. Okay, cool. But you don't realize that what happened on that day was all part of prophecy that was, I won't say prophecy. Well, I mean, it really was prophesied. If you just read that, look, the Lord spoke with Rebekah and said, the older is going to serve the younger, all right? And then who came out first? Esau, so he was the older. So it was prophesied that he would serve the younger. Now, if you're the firstborn with your birthright, you would not be serving the younger, all right? They would be serving you. Well, interesting. That is very interesting. Interesting indeed. So you got to realize that it was already prophesied that would happen. All right. And then as far as the blessing goes, Esau was no longer entitled to that blessing. That's why the Lord, all right, had Jacob do that with subtlety. Yeah, you had Jacob lie. If you want to say that, you can go ahead and say that. I know how you are. You get mad about it. All right, no, he put the subtlety, the mind of subtlety on Jacob, really through the method of his mother. All right, to go and do these things, all right, because that's how he had to obtain that birthright, and that's how the Lord wanted him to obtain that birthright. That's how he had it played out, all right. Everything happens for a reason, and the reason that happened, the reason why Esau did not get his blessing is because he was no longer entitled to that blessing, because the thing that entitled you to your blessing, all right, of your father, your priestly blessing, was in fact your birthright. But we can see right here, Genesis 25 and 34, it says, Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Esau hated his birthright. He did not like it. He was ungrateful. You also got to know, like Esau, another scripture that says, no one, let's go and get this, no one as profane as Esau. All right. Again, Hebrews 12 and 16. It talks about this birthright. Hebrews 12 and 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. So he sold his birthright, and in what's the word I'm looking for? And in succession, no, and in by doing so, all right, sold his blessing as well. So let's see. It says, in ancient Israel, a birthright, primarily referred to as inheritance rights and the status of the firstborn son. It carried special privileges and responsibilities. It was deeply rooted in the patriarchal and tribal society of Israel, and tribal structure of Israelite society. So you would get a double portion of inheritance. It says, according to Deuteronomy 21 and 17, the firstborn son received a double portion of his father's estate. For example, if the father had 3 sons, the estate would be divided into 4 parts. The firstborn would get 2, and then each of the others would get 1. Okay? So it really sucks to be not firstborn, but that's how it works. It's just how it's supposed to be. Leadership and authority of the family. The firstborn often assumed the role of family leader after the family's death, functioning as the patriarch and representing the family in the community or tribal matters. Hence, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through that carrying on. All right, through that carrying on. And you got to remember, well, if that's the seed line, they both came from the same father. Yeah, but the Lord didn't have it be that way. Yes, right now, if you had 2 twins, they'd be of the same bloodline. But right then and there, the Lord was, really the formulative steps of creating the nations. Okay, and that's why there was 2 nations in her womb, so they weren't of the same bloodline. I know it seems a little confusing. It doesn't work like that now. All right, but that's when the Lord was creating the nations, and that's just how it worked. The nations and the tribes. So that's how it worked. Okay, there was 2 nations within the womb. You're not gonna have that now. All right, you're gonna have, if your father's a Jake, both of you are gonna be a Jake if you have twins. All right, both of them are gonna be Jakes if you have twins. That's just how it works. All right, this was really a special scenario. It says, according to Deuteronomy. So yeah, we already got that one. Slacking. But yeah, so you would assume the family role. That's why Jacob was in Isaac's place, essentially. Continuing on, spiritually and religious prominence, and I already see what we're talking about. It's number 4 if you want to peek. But it says, initially, firstborn males had a sacred role in the religious life of Israel. For example, Exodus 13 and 2 declares that all firstborn males must be consecrated to the Lord. However, after the incident of the golden calf in Exodus 32, the Levites replaced the firstborn in priestly service. Numbers 3 and 12 through 13. In 14, it says covenantal blessing, sometimes associated. While distinct from the birthright, the blessing, barakah, all right, and no, it's not really distinct. I mean, it's same. It. Well, I'll let it. It is part of it. All right, it's not sometimes associated. It's directly just a part of it. It says, while distinct from the birthright, the blessing is usually given by the father before death. Isaac was old and ready to die. Was often expected by the firstborn. Okay? This conveyed divine favor and future prosperity. However, it could be given to another son, example Jacob over Esau in Genesis 27, and this caused major family conflicts. Key example, Jacob and Genesis. Well, I don't want to say, the reason that Jacob got that blessing was because despite not being firstborn, he still held the birthright as Esau sold it to him. Hence why the Lord put into effect the things that Jacob ended up doing to get the blessing. all prophetic, as the Lord told Rebekah that the older shall serve the younger, and Esau came out first, making it all adds up. It says exactly, you're putting the pieces together really well. The story of Jacob and Esau is one of the clearest examples in Scripture where birthright blessing and divine prophecy intersect to show how Yahweh's purposes unfold sometimes contrary to cultural norms. Here's how it all connects. Let's read it. I'm interested. Divine prophecy. It says, Genesis 25 and 23, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. This was spoken by Yahweh to Rebekah while she was pregnant. It set the stage for everything that followed. Yahweh had already declared Jacob the younger would surpass Esau the older, despite Esau's natural rights as firstborn. 2. Esau sells his birthright in Genesis 25 and 29 to 34. In a moment of weakness, Esau despised his birthright, sang it to Jacob for a simple meal. Thus Esau despised his birthright. This shows not only his short-sightedness, but also his disregard for the covenantal significance as a position. He wasn't meant to have it. All right, it wasn't right for him. Okay, he didn't care for those types of things. The blessing follows the birthright. Although the blessing, Genesis 27, was separate from the birthright, Jacob's possession of the birthright made him, at least spiritually and legally, entitled to the blessing. Rebekah's involvement in helping Jacob receive the blessing wasn't mere favoritism. She believed Yahweh's word and helped ensure his prophecy came to pass. And then 4, Yahweh's sovereign choice. Romans 9 and 10 through 13. Paul later confirms this in the New Testament. That before the twins were born or had done anything good or bad, in order that Yahweh's purpose in election might stand, Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated. Whew. Heavy. Does this emphasize Yahweh's plan that was never dependent on human customs, but on his sovereign will? Conclusion, you're absolutely right. I'm not right. The scripture's right. Jacob receiving his blessing wasn't a trick or an accident. It was a trick. He lied. No. Yeah, it might seem like he tricked or that he lied or he pulled a rouge, but that was all part of, like it says, it was prophetic and intentional, and it was Yahweh's sovereign plan, right? That's what it was. It was prophetic and intentional, tied to having acquired the birthright, and Yahweh's sovereign plan from before birth. It had nothing to do with it. It was all decided before birth by Yahweh. The story is a powerful example of how Yahweh's purposes override human expectations, even the deeply ingrained custom of firstborn rights. I'm going to try to read. I can't. Primogeniture. Because it does all add up, and it showcases Yahweh's unfolding covenant plan through the line of promise. Heavy. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Okay? So knowing all this, all right, went a little longer than I usually go, but hey, you ain't got nothing better to do? Nope, don't. But 1 Peter 5 and 8, leaving you with all this, now you understand why Jake is treated this way by Esau, why Esau hates Jacob, because the Lord chose us and did not choose any other nation, let alone Esau, all right? Especially not Esau. Esau is the base man, the lowest of low, and the only people who will have no mercy on from the Lord. It says, no, the Lord loves everybody. He's going to have mercy. No, Esau will get no mercy, okay, because of the wickedness that they've done. If you read your Bible, which you don't, you read the Bible, you'll see the Lord is constantly talking about his how despicable the Edomites are and his hatred towards them, but his love towards Jacob. Even though we can be pieces of shit, even though we can go off, all right, Lord says, look, I'm going to refine some, even the people that aren't refined, all right, the 2/3, all right, there's going to be, really, I'm getting, in too deep right now, but even the wicked of his people, all right, they're going to have to be purified through death, all right, but they'll be made, whole and pure again, all right, and the elect, the chosen people that are, going to be delivered and not taste death, they're going to be tried and as silver is tried and refined. Okay, so he wants to purify, even though this people went off. The Lord still loves his people and wants to refine them and make them better again and remove that sickness from off of us. Okay, he's not doing that with any of the other nations. All right. Now, all the other nations are going to receive mercy. All right, in a form. Okay, after, but because after that, you're gonna have to pay some stuff back because you were wicked towards our people. All right, 1,000 years of captivity where you're basically gonna be our servants. All right, slaves, if you will. But after that 1,000 years, it's gonna be better for you. All right, than it was here under Esau's rule. All right, you're gonna be in a better situation. You're gonna have probably better houses than you had here. All right, a better life than you had here, eating better foods. All right, better relationships than you had here. All right, but Esau, the same cannot be said for them. They're going to be gathered and destroyed. All right, never to return as a nation again because they just can't be right. They're profane. No one as profane as Esau. All right, there's just no one as vile as him. No one is godless. No one is proud. No one is wicked as this man. And that's why he's got to be taken out. All right, and that's the so-called white man. And that's why they do all this work to say white and black. Where Africans come from Africa. Dominicans come from Dominican Republic. Where's the land of black or the land of white? Because I don't see no land of black or Blackia or Whitopia on a map. I don't see it. I don't see no land of white. Okay? I see Europe because you're European. All right? That's what you are. But you're not white. You're European. All right? And you're not white. You're red. And we're not black. All right? None of our people are black. I'm not black myself, but, I'm still an Israelite. But our people aren't black. We're various shades of brown. Or some of us turn out to and that's the other thing. Some of us might look like Edomites, but again, it all goes to the father's seed line. Okay, I happen to look white. All right, I have some Jake features as far as like the I have more Northern Kingdom features, but I believe I go back to Southern Kingdom, but I have like Northern Kingdom features for the most part. But that's where you get into speckled birds. Okay, because if your father was Jake and you got with a white woman and had kids, and then those kids being Jake's, those boys also got with white women. Now you're gonna have a kid that just looks like they're white. Okay, but they go back to the seed line of Israel still, seed line of Jacob still. Okay, so that's what you need to realize. So, but yeah, man. So it ain't all about color, but these people that you see, the so-called white people, 90% of them, 99% of them, all right, are in fact just Edomites. Okay, they're just Edomites. So, and most of the people that look like so-called black folk and Latinos are in fact Israelites. But it's just not always definitive. You're going to have some underliers. That's where we get speckled birds, such as myself, who look white, all right? Might have some things that like, okay, I can see a little bit of some Jake features, but they mostly look like another nation. And it's not always white. Sometimes they'll look Asian, all right? Sometimes they'll look Arab or something else. And then you can also have it on the opposite side where you have someone who looks black, all right? But, people like Candace Owens, but they always say these black people and people like the Hodge twins and Candace Owens, there's other people, but they're actually just Edomites, all right, or other nations cloaked, all right, and they don't, sometimes you see these black dudes running around watching anime all the time. Not, Jake likes anime too. I'm talking about all they do is watch anime, and they're like, well, actually, and they act weird. They don't act normal. Some of them are fucked up in the mind, and they're just gone, Jake, all right. The tism got them a little bit too much, and then on the other side, you have the ones that are just probably just fucking Ammonites, all right, or Moabites. Okay, more likely Ammonites, because that's where the anime shit comes from, is the Japan, and that's the Ammonites. So some are probably just Ammonites, all right? Others are Edomites, all right? So really got to weigh people by their spirit. You can't see a black man and instantly go, I know he's a Jake 100%, all right? Now, more than likely he's a Jake, but you don't know until you talk to him, all right? Just like when you see a white person, more than likely he's an Edomite, all right? If you saw if you saw me walking around, you wouldn't be wrong for assuming, okay, that guy's more than likely an Edomite. Until you got to talk to me, then you would be able to know that I'm not. All right, but I wouldn't fault you for thinking, oh, that guy's more likely Edomite because I see him. All right, but you wouldn't know until you talk to me, and then you would know. And that's how you have to do it with these people. You have to. Same with Jake. There's been people I say, oh, look, a brother walking in or whatever. You see him at work. Hey, how are you guys doing? Did you hear about Trump? I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Okay, maybe this guy might be a terror. This guy's a little weird. Don't do anything Jake wise. Doesn't really get along too well with Jake. Doesn't have the flow. He can't laugh and joke with Jake like Jake joke little tongue twist like Jake joke with Jake. So you're like, that's a little interesting. Everything's a little off. So again, that's a topic for another day. Hey, Lord willing, maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. Maybe I'll go in a lesson if I can remember. I might write it down. Matter of fact, I'll go and do it now. I'll go and do speckled birds and hares. All right. And Lord willing, I'll get to it. right? And I'll actually just kind of pin it from here. Pin. So yeah, just pin it. So like I said, it could happen, could not happen. We don't know. But like I said, if the Lord puts a spirit on me to do that tomorrow, then I'll do it tomorrow. But knowing all this information that we know now, who you are and who they are. But yeah, one more thing before I get this. That's why they spend so much time hiding who you are and hiding who they are. Because once you find all this, everything starts adding up. Then you look into the curses in Deuteronomy, and then you say, oh, well, that only fits Jacob. And then, man, there's so many more. Maybe I'll do it. I want to do another lesson on the curses. All right. Curses. The curses put upon Jake. Going into the curses put on Jake by the Lord. All right. So there's another one. Call Yahweh Shem Shai. Bam, bam. 2 lessons right there. Two ideas for a lesson. I've done it before, but 2 lessons for an idea right there. Bam, bam. Call Yahweh Shem Shai. Or rocket the Yahweh Shem Shai. So, gotta love it. But so knowing that you know those things now, all right. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. There you go. So, you know these things now. So you got to be mindful, man. You got to be sober. You got to be vigilant. Because this guy's walking around, he's looking for any reason to do something to you. So, the last scripture that we're going to get for this lesson, knowing that, stop arguing with cops, Jake. Stop it. We know nobody wants to get a bullshit $100 fine. Nobody wants to get a bullshit $50 fine. Nobody wants to get, you were going 10. No, officer, I was going 5. No, I said you were going 10. I was going 5. You were going 10. Okay. I was going 10. All right, here's your ticket. Because if you keep on doing that, really, you shouldn't even argue like that. All right, you can do the initial argue where it's like, you were going 10. Like, oh, officer, I was going 5. Say, no, you were going 10. What? Okay. All right, I saw that I was going 5, but okay. You do have the speed radar, so maybe I was going 10. My bad. I'm sorry, officer. And answering like that, more likely you might get out of a ticket. Maybe. All right, it's not 100%. Depends how dark skin you are. Not always. It really depends what the Most High wants to happen. All right, if he wants to throw a little bit of hell on you, he'll throw a little bit of hell on you. But yeah, man, just stop arguing with cops, Jake, because it's not gonna get you out. They're not gonna say, oh, you know what? You know, when you called me a salty, dusty bitch, you know, you were completely right. You know, you have a great day, sir. Get out of here. Well, I'm not gonna do anything to you. No, man, they're gonna get more mad. You're just gonna make the situation worse. Again, going back into Ecclesiastes 28:12, you spit on the if thou spit, come on now, if thou blow the spark, it shall burn. So if you spit on a spark, it'll go out. But if you sit there blowing on it, yeah, then guess what? It's gonna make a fire. All right, that's how you make a fire. And then your ass gets shot up, and then you have a whole campaign going on about, oh, he was a good guy. You know, he didn't do anything to deserve that. Well, shouldn't have done that, huh? Shouldn't have done that. It sucks. It really sucks. We get it. It sucks, Jake. I'm not standing up for the police at all because I fucking hate the police. But it's just something you have to do, man. It sucks. Okay? Nobody wants to be accused of some stuff that you didn't do. Nobody wants to pay a fine for some stuff that you didn't even do. But it's better than losing your life. It's better than sitting in a jail cell. It's better sitting in court. So stop arguing with cops, Jake. That's where we're going to close out. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I know it's a little longer one. Probably break it up into 2 portions if you have to. Like I said, it was really like 2 lessons in one, really. But I wanted to get all the information for Jake. If this is somehow your first time hearing about this ever. So that's a lesson. We're going to close out. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. I want to say Shalom, Jacqueminaquat out there, you brothers and sisters out there. Keep it and keep the faith. We're almost out of here. If this is your first time watching a lesson like this, I recommend I'm not a part of GMS, but that's who I learned from. I recommend just typing in GMS or Great Millstone Israelites. Matter of fact, like I said, I won't feel comfortable ending the lesson unless I do a shout out. It's on my spirit. So what I would recommend doing, boom, 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 boom. And then I'll grab one more right here. Okay, here I'm gonna do right here. Boom. This is the lead apostle, Apostle Gabar. All right. What is the 666 Mark II GMS Truth? All right. Subscribe to him. This is try to do it in order. This is Daily Edification 4. This is the Apostle Gabar. Okay, go and subscribe to him as well. This is GMS Infodoc Channel 12. This is Apostle Ramalab. All right, go ahead and also, of course, subscribe to him as well. Subscribe to these two elders as well. This is Elder Yasha Wamba out of the GMS Dallas camp. He goes by Remnant Save 144 on his page. Subscribe to him, of course. And of course, last but not least, love this brother. I love all these brothers and elders and apostles, by the way. They're all great men, of course. But last but certainly not least is GMS South Carolina 08. This is the elder, Manata Zatba. All right, some of you, if you ever heard about the Israelites or you ever seen an Israelite video, chances are it could have been him. You see his stuff going around a lot. But yeah, man, go subscribe if you want to start learning. Just watch those, clean to those brothers' videos, and just keep watching. Okay, and they'll get you right, man. They'll get you right. If, of course, if Yahweh Shemel Shai wants, to continue on that pathway, you better hope and pray he does. So until next one, Lord willing, Shalom.